Today I wanted to talk to you about how to create a simple but dynamic biotope for Zebra Danios. Zebra Danios are a very popular aquarium species, and for many people they will be the first fish that they've ever kept. They are hardy, they're adaptable, and they're pretty affordable. Because they breed so fast and so profusely, this allows scientists to study the effects of these modifications over lots of generations of Danios very quickly. Zebra Danios have actually been in the hobby a very long time. My friend Alexander Williamson of Fish Story, who you can go and check out on YouTube, told me that the Zebra Danio was first brought to the USA in 1904 and likely Germany and the Netherlands in the same year. He told me that it's one of the most studied and modified organisms on Earth, as it's become somewhat of a gold standard alongside mice for studying genomics, anatomy and biology in vertebrates, and vertebrates includes us, human beings. Whatever you might think about the ethics of this, Danios have made a huge contribution to science and to medicine and ultimately to human health. There are even Danios living on the International Space Station. However, providing a long-term and engaging home for these fish, which also looks natural and not like a space laboratory, is actually quite easy and really rewarding. These fish are found over a very large part of South Asia, being recorded from Bangladesh, Bhutan, India and Nepal. They're also known from the eastern and western Ghats mountain ranges in southern India, and there are some older references suggesting that they might occur within Pakistan and Myanmar, but this remains disputed, so it's still out for debate really. They're found in a real diversity of habitats, which can include sort of sluggish minor rivers, slow to medium flowing streams, backwater creeks, seasonal pools and ponds, canals, ditches and rice paddies. They're often found over really soft substrates in lowland areas and over gravel, sand and bedrock in upland habitats, for instance up in the Western Ghats Mountains. They're often associated with marginal and overhanging vegetation along the shaded banks of streams. That's kind of where they can hang out and hide from predators. These photos are by Betta Mahatvaraj of the YouTube channel Mean Karan. You can also find him on Instagram. And Betta shows us amazing videos of habitats in India, and his insights and knowledge are really useful to anyone wanting to learn about the fishes, plants and habitats of this region. And these photos are showing habitats of Laganandra, plants and Zebra Danios. In the wild, Zebra Danios can be found alongside beautiful plants belonging to the Laganandra family, and there are a number of species in the hobby, with the most popular being Laganandra miboldi. Here in Betta's photos we can see Laganandra growing along the margins of a stream in the mountains in India, and I really wanted to recreate this in the aquarium. The Laganandra species that I'm going to use is Laganandra neri, which grows very slowly but can grow quite large. You might have to hunt around a bit for Laganandra neri. It is available in the hobby, but there are other species you can use. You can find the Laganandra miboldi green, Laganandra thwaitzii. It doesn't have to be exactly biotope correct. They all look quite similar, some get larger than others, and whichever species you can find, use it. They're all really cool. I wanted to keep this setup really simple but also attractive, so I've only used a few components, but I have used some high-end equipment, and we'll look at what I've used in the next bit here. So I'm using a shallow aquarium, which is a 90 by 45 by 28 centimeters tank, and it holds 113 liters, so it's long and shallow. This really helps to accentuate the flowing stream effect that we want to create. The overhead lighting isn't too important, as Laganandra plants can live in low light, but I'm using 2 LED lamps to create the shimmer effect in the stream. I've also fitted this tank with a light screen by The Light Background, and I've used one of their gradient foils which goes between the glass and the light screen. And this one is yellow to orange, and it simulates the tannin stained waters of one of these forest streams. I start by adding some plastic egg crate to the bottom of the tank, and this will protect the glass from the heavy rocks that I'm going to use. The rocks I've chosen were found in a landscaping and garden store, and I've chosen really flat ones to simulate the bedrock beneath the sand of a Western Ghats stream. I've used a brownish aquarium plant substrate to simulate the silt, mud and sand of these streams, At first it's quite grainy when you first add it, but I wanted this as it provides a really good substrate for the plants to fix themselves into, for the roots to grab onto. But over time the substrate will break down into a finer sediment which will look much more natural, and by that time the plants will be well established. So I plant the plants into the substrate between the rocks using some really large heavy-duty aquarium tweezers. Laganandra grow slowly from a rhizome and they hate being moved, so try to plant them exactly where you want them the first time around. So I filled the tank with a 50-50 mix of rain and tap water, and the water had been dechlorinated and heated to 20 degrees Celsius so it doesn't shock the plants when it goes in. I've also used a plastic bag to diffuse the water so it doesn't stir up the substrate as we're filling it. The tank is only half filled, which one stops our Danios from jumping out, they're quite lively, but it also allows the Laganandra to grow immersed as they would in the wild. And actually these plants grow much bigger out of water than underwater as long as they have humid conditions. We want to represent a stream in a forest environment, so I add some botanicals. These are mini catappa leaves which you can find on Amazon. I'm using a large filter, a Wazi Biomaster Thermo 850, to provide lots of flow and lots of oxygen. I've also used the Aquarium pipework with a built-in Venturi system which maximizes oxygen output, but you could use an air stone or a power head and achieve the same effect. Finally, I'm also using a fogger which is on a timer to create a really cool atmosphere, both metaphorically and literally, and ensure plenty of humidity for the plants as they grow up and out of the water. And the idea of this display is exactly that over time, and it will take time, the Laganandra would pretty much fill out the back and be right out the tank, perhaps 20-30 centimeters out of the water, and be kept humid by that fogger, with the fish moving around the stems and around the root systems as they scramble over the rock. And I think that would look really, really cool. Sadly, I couldn't leave the tank running for as many months as required in order to achieve that, but I'm sort of tempted to do a setup like this again in the future. So that's my Zebra Danio biotope. As I said, the tank is very much in the immature stage here, but over the time the plants will fill out along the back and between the rocks. Some algae will cover those rocks and the grainy substrate will break down into a finer medium which will look really, really authentic. The fish were really happy in here, dancing in the flow and zooming about, as you can see, and it certainly gave me an appreciation for these lovely, lively creatures, which are often overlooked by more experienced hobbyists. One exception to that rule is my friend Alex Bell, and you can find his videos on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description, including his Zebra Danio breeding project. And Alex really, really loves Danios, and I think he's right to do so, and I think more of us should. As I said earlier, I've used some pretty high-end equipment to create this display, but you could achieve something similar on a smaller budget. For example, the Lightground now sell gradient foils which are non-transparent, and they don't need a light screen behind them, so you can save a lot of money and still get a really, really cool effect with orange to yellow or orange to green, green to yellow, blue to white, whatever color grade takes your fancy. You could also use any aquarium which is longer than 75 centimeters really. These fish do need a bit of room to move about, and you could choose from a huge range of lighting, just whichever lighting you do choose, as long as it's bright enough for the plants, that'll be fine. Finally, you could use an internal filter and an air stone to create the bubbling stream effect to provide lots of oxygenation instead of a large canister filter. I guess my main point is that there's no excuse to not try and set up a natural style display for these fish, and I believe you'll find it rewarding if you do so. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and maybe become inspired to create a home for some Zebra Danios. And all that's left to say is thank you guys very much and take care.